welcome back to Leeds Lately. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a tactical one, and we're going to be talking about how Patrick Bamford, but having an out-and-out striker in general, can really help this team, can really help Leeds this season. We've seen in the last couple of weeks that Bamford's come back into the team, and he's come back into form as well, and I don't think that that is any coincidence. I think it's down to the system that we're playing and the fact that sometimes you just need an out-and-out striker. We saw with Timu Pukki, he was more of an out-and-out striker than what we have in Joel Piroe. But Patrick Bamford matches up to that sort of build, not physically, but like style of player. He sort of matches up a little bit more to an out-and-out number 9. Now, Patrick Bamford, as good or bad as you might think he is, has trained and played his entire career, other than a few games when he was young, as a striker. So he knows what to do as a striker. He knows what runs to make. He knows where to go. And I think this is a massive part of why we've had a lot more success in recent weeks. And I hope that at some point Joel Piroe can come in and do this job as well. But for now, I think Patrick Bamford's doing a very good job of leading the line for Leeds. And this is what I mean by this. So in this situation we've got at the moment, we've got the opposition in a bit of a 4-4-2. And you'll recognise this a lot because you'll have, in recent weeks, Ampadu and Rodon as your two centre-backs here, and maybe they wouldn't be this high, maybe they would be there playing a bit of a mid-block. And so you then have your midfielders, so let's say Kamara and Gruever here as your options as well, and you've got Jorginho in the number 10 role. You've got your fullbacks who have actually gone really high and wide then, and they can come inside if they need to into these spaces, which we've talked about before in one of these tactics videos. But in these spaces at the moment, you've got your wingers in Somerville and Dan James who can make those runs out to the wing. But what we're talking about is Patrick Bamford. Now, a lot of the time in previous weeks and previous months when we've had not an out-and-out striker in there, we've had Jorginho in there, he will drop into this midfield. And what he'll do is he'll drop in with Joel Piroe. And a lot of the time, I don't know why I said that so well, Joel Piroe, a lot of the time, one of them will come in here and get the ball and try and turn and then maybe give it to a Kamara and then give it up here to a Somerville or a Dan James or whoever that may be. But what that does is that leaves these two centre-backs with absolutely nobody to mark. And they will absolutely love that, because what that means is they can watch the game, they can move from side to side, wherever Leeds decide to take the ball, they can move from side to side, they can position themselves, they've got time to set themselves as a whole line, and therefore it makes it really difficult for Leeds to break them down. But what Patrick Bamford does by playing as an out-and-out striker rather than somebody who will drop in here and get the ball all the time, he's always on the last man. He's always on the shoulder. He's always there. He's always an ever-present danger and a threat in their mind that they think they have to mark him. So therefore, this defender here is worried about Patrick Bamford, and that means that when Patrick Bamford, maybe the ball comes into here, Patrick Bamford might make a run and spin outside. This player's got to go with him. So that means that this player is now worried about whether he has to go this way into this gap to stop Dan James running through on his own, finding Archie Gray, maybe with a pass. Sorry, that should be the other way around. And also, he's got to worry about whoever this might be, so that might be your Jorginho, running through this central hole to play in there. So what Patrick Bamford does is he really epitomises that number 9 role by completely giving the defenders something to think about and really stopping them from being able to actually have a grip on him or have a grip on anyone for that matter. There's another example I want to talk about as well, and that's in terms of actual aggressive strikers' runs in the box. Now, there was a moment in the game against Preston yesterday, because this will be going out on the Monday, and the ball came over here and it came to, let's say that this is Dan James this time. He came over to here and he was going to cross the ball into the box. Preston had players in the box. Leeds had some players at the front post, one on the edge of the box maybe. But Patrick Bamford was here and I think he actually had like 2 players around him. But what he did was, and this is something that you don't really see from Jorginho, although he is starting to bring it into his game because he actually did something similar off a corner. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for now, Patrick Bamford, he made this run into the box. So if you imagine all these players, I'm kind of covering it, but they're all running together into the box like that. But what Patrick Bamford does is he checks. So he puts the weight on his left foot, he springs off his left foot and he runs inside. Now, what that does is these two, their momentum and their weight is on the foot that's facing this way, and therefore they're leaning that way and they can't turn quite quick enough. Patrick Bamford was then able to check, come inside. These players haven't reacted in time. And when that ball came into the box, he was able to head that. It wasn't a great header in the end because of how far out he was, but he got the contact on it, got it there, and the goalkeeper, Cornell, was able to catch it. But the idea is there of that making that run, checking inside, and that's not really what we've had in the previous weeks and months with our other people who have played in that striker role. You haven't had that striker's instinct to go and make those runs. You saw it against Cardiff. He was here and he basically drifted towards this front post, but when all these players think, okay, we've got him, we're safe now, instead, he drifts around to the back post. Dan James whipped that cross in and he headed it in at the back post against Cardiff. That's about being in the right place at the right time. It's no coincidence that he scored that goal when he was on the floor against... who was that? He scored a goal on the floor. The header was against Birmingham City. The one where he was on the floor, he was in this corridor of uncertainty, ready to put the ball into the back of the net. And yes, it hit Firpo, bounced to his leg and went in the back of the net. But it's no coincidence. It's no accident. You talk to somebody like Gary Lineker. He spent his entire career being that fox in the box, always being in the right place at the right time, making sure he's there time after time after time, being in the right place, making the same old runs, even if you're not getting the ball, making the same runs. And that's something that Patrick Bamford does tirelessly. When we talk about Patrick Bamford's always running for the team, he's always doing something. It's not something that's completely arbitrary. It's not just running for the sake of running. A lot of his runs are intelligent and clever, and this is why I think a lot of fans who don't really like Bamford don't look this closely at what he's doing with his game, because off the ball, the runs he makes, if he doesn't get the ball, he opens up the space like we talked about in the first example in this video. And if he does get the ball, it means that he's pulled himself into a position where he's able to receive the ball freely to hit that first time into the goal without the players able to react to it. I.e., like I said, stepping on the weight of one foot, making the players think they're going that way and then pulling back. And it makes your players go the other way. It gives you a little extra half a second to try and get a shot away or something. And I think that's really a difference maker, especially in the last few weeks, where we've actually been able to create chances and score goals from those situations. Obviously, even when you look at the other goal in the Preston game, the goal in the Preston game, where we actually did score. This is when Somerville's running down here. Firpo plays a ball into... Somerville plays a ball into Firpo. Firpo is about here when he crosses it. So you've got a couple of players in the box. But what Patrick Bamford does, let's say that this is Dan James here. Dan James is here on the edge of the box making this run. But what Patrick Bamford does is he goes this way and makes a run to the near post, or certainly more central. And it means that all of these players follow him, thinking that he's the danger man. This player's caught in no man's land, not knowing whether he should go or not, because obviously we had other players in there as well. Somerville was arriving. But by the time the ball came in, Patrick Bamford had already drawn all those players away. So then Dan James is here at the back post to head it straight downwards under the goalkeeper, and it's a goal. So I think having an out-and-out striker can really, really help us. And I hope that Joël Peru can become that as well and give us that option there, because having someone who can occupy the defenders has really, really helped us in games where we've had to break down a low block. Because, like I say, moving from side to side, opening up that gap, making those runs can really, really help Leeds to create chances where they might not have done in previous weeks. So it gives us a different option, and I think having Bamford fit will really help us this season. This has just been a little bit of a bite-sized tactics video. I just wanted to talk about this because it's something that I noticed from the Preston game and from the previous few weeks as well, about how Bamford's impacted us since he's come back in. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, whether you've been converted into a Bamford believer rather than a Bamford basher, let's say. That sounds rude, but it wasn't meant to be. But yes, thanks for watching Leeds Lately, and I'll see you in the next one.